So in this video, we have once again returned to our outside location, and I just wanted to discuss or review The Lost Continent, which is a Terry Pratchett book. So this book features the character of Rincewind as well. It's just a generally wizard book, so it features all the dudes from Unseen University. And just to quickly spoiler-free review, this is not a great book in my opinion, and I didn't enjoy it that much. I didn't hate it, but I felt very sort of meh towards it. I never really warmed to it, and I never really kind of enjoyed it at the level that I've expected to enjoy Terry Pratchett books. But with that said, the caveat to that is it still is a Terry Pratchett book, and it's still very funny, and it's still very enjoyable, as just relative to other books. So for a Terry Pratchett book, I wasn't very impressed, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. But just for books overall, I mean, it was a good experience, and you'll probably like it if you read it, particularly if you like Terry Pratchett. So to get into some more like sort of spoilers and just like a more sort of in-depth review, from the start, I was never super invested in the concept. I believe that this book was hurt a little bit by the split focus, as in, so for this entire book, we have one character of Rincewind, who's doing his own thing, just sort of traipsing around Australia, and then we have the sort of group of wizards. And I felt that this book would have been a lot stronger if we just sort of had Rincewind and then maybe we meet up with the wizards or something at the end, because I don't know, I never really warmed to them because they're all terrible people and idiots, right? And you might say, well, that's the point, it's just a joke about how dumb they are. But I felt that the gag sort of kind of ran out, by the time you've watched or listened to it, because this is a book like 5 hours of wizards being stupid, you're like, this joke's not really that funny anymore, and now I just have to deal with these guys being idiots. And yeah, so Terry Pratchett leans really heavily on this, on the comedy of the wizards being inept and ridiculous and not logical, right? And he just kind of returns to this comedic well, if you will, over and over and over again. And I found that by the time you get to the 10th time he's done this, it's really not that funny, and they don't make it for interesting characters because they're so ridiculously inept. So you kind of have these boring characters who their one saving grace might be that they're comedic, and that works, for example, in when you're listening to the City Watch series or reading the City Watch series. I mean, you kind of see wizards every now and again. They the wizards show up for a couple of pages, and you're like, oh, that was funny. But when the wizards are the focus of the entire book, I felt, at least for me, that the comedy really falls flat. But I should caveat with the fact that a couple of friends of mine, this is like one of their favorite Discworld books, and so it may be that this is just sort of a subjective thing for me, and for some people the comedy well, obviously all reviews are subjective, but a particular subjective thing, and perhaps for some other people the comedy would land a bit more. So yeah, that was one problem I had with the book. The other problem with the book is the other big running gag of this book is the fact that this continent is obviously supposed to be Australia, and there's lots of jokes about Australians. There's kangaroos and there's crocodiles and there's everything's deadly and Australian slang and all that. And once again, I just had the same problem where I felt that the gags and the jokes were funny up to, but they were just sort of repeated ad nauseum. So you sort of, the first hour of the audiobook, or first 100 pages of the book or whatever were pretty funny. But then, the jokes sort of just get repeated, like, oh my gosh, this guy's a kangaroo, holy shit. This is like the 4th time we've had this like same idea expressed. And oh my gosh, this Australian slang, it's crazy, and maybe I feel like this whole book could either have been better as a short story, or perhaps as part of another book, as in, maybe, it's just like a 100-page section in another book where he visits Australia, and then, you move on from there. But I felt like as a long-form book, everything just sort of felt a bit repeated and a bit, but in terms of the comedy specifically, the comedy felt really sort of overdone and repeated. So yeah, that wasn't great. As far as the characters, I never really warmed to Rincewind as a character. I never really to me at least, he doesn't really have, his defining character traits is that he's always running away, and that he's exasperated and frustrated by the fact that he always has to run away. But that's, to me, seemed about it. And it's certainly possible that I'm misunderstanding, or I didn't quite get perhaps what Terry Pratchett was going for here. But and I think that's likely to be true because, like I said, other people that I've talked to have really enjoyed this book and really enjoy the character of Rincewind. But my counterpoint to that would be that if I have to, particularly for a Terry Pratchett style book where it's supposed to be light and easy reading, if I have to spend ages attempting to understand the character, and I still don't, then perhaps it's not the greatest character. So that was a problem. So for me, this book is it suffers from it suffers from sort of pacing issues. The comedy doesn't land after a certain point. The characters aren't great. And it's just, and the plot is like bordering on non-existent. And I've sort of touched upon this in my Discworld review, which is that the plot being non-existent is fine if the characters are strong and the comedy's funny, and the setting is strong, like an Ankh-Morpork book or something, or Ankh-Morpork book, I don't know. But anyway, if that all works, then it's fine that there's not much of a plot. But in this book, the plot was basically non-existent, and the characters weren't that good, in my opinion, and the comedy wasn't that funny. And so I I really felt that this book really felt quite flat for me. With that said, though, I've basically been shit-talking this book for, the last 5 minutes. But what's important to remember is that this is still a Terry Pratchett book, and it's still kind of funny, and the setting's still kind of enjoyable, and the tone, Terry Pratchett always has this tone, which I really like. It's sort of whimsical and funny, and, what's the word, like, irreverent. And it's really, like, so the tone is still there. It's still a Terry Pratchett book, but like I said, it just has these flaws that really, for me at least, brought it down. So, I wouldn't really recommend this. I would say that if you are, doing your full reread of the entire Discworld, bibliography, then, you go through this book and you're not going to hate it. But if I was recommending someone a Discworld book to start with or, to move on to, I definitely wouldn't recommend this one. So, yeah, thanks very much for watching. I hope that this review wasn't too negative. And like I said, I still really enjoy Terry Pratchett. I still really enjoy Discworld, and I still enjoyed this book a little bit, but yeah, just had all these like sort of flaws that kind of brought it down for me quite a bit. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. See you later.